One of the things that's really helpful in the life of a Christian is having what the Orthodox call a rule of prayer rule. And the rule isn't like a rule like the law, but a rule like a plan, like the rule, like a ruler, like to measure this out. And this is really done in concert with the spiritual father, like to ask your spiritual father, like, what would you have me do? Or just say, this is what I do, A rule of prayer would include things like morning and evening prayers, reading the scripture daily. What Protestants would call a quiet time, that's what we're talking about. Like, they're probably, and in fact, like for the dedicated person who's really keeping this discipline up and, saying their prayers and reading the scriptures, confessing their sins, that is what we're talking about with the rule of prayer. I think in Orthodoxy, it's so normative to include like time in like praying the Jesus prayer. It would include, the reading of not just scripture, but along with it, holy books written by saints, books that are recommended by a spiritual father to read, having time standing and prostrations and kneeling, like usually done in the morning, in the evening, before the icons at home, and lighting a candle, sometimes incense. And it's like capturing space in our lives, space in our homes for like the domestic church, like for the fullness of our life. So, we don't want to just be Sunday morning Christians. We're living this life following Christ. And it does take like having some regular daily rule. And the rule just, having where there's like a plan, so anybody that's read through the Bible in a year or something, like it takes, 30 minutes a day or more or whatever it takes some effort. And so the prayer rule usually takes some effort. It needs to be doable. Again, like the way to do this is to ask the priest, like, Father, this is what I'm thinking, or would you give me one, or what would you have me do? And people do akathis. People have different things for different days. You read like the lives of the saints, you read about Elder Ephraim of Arizona. He would write about the vigil prayers they would do. It's just his rule of prayer as a monk. And some nights he'd read more than he did others. Some nights he'd, praying the prayer of the heart, the Jesus prayer. Other nights, not as much as, there's an ebb and flow. But there was always the rule, like, this is where we're going. This is how we do it. It always includes the scriptures. It always includes a prayer book. Doesn't mean we only stick to just the prayer book, but some saints give the counsel that once your heart is warm and you're actually praying, then you just keep going. You're praying now. And so it helps keep the heart warm. If you don't have any rule of prayer, when you get kind of like, when you need to pray, you may not be able to, so we always say, pray while you can, like get the rule of prayer going so you have access. There's nothing worse than someone gets sick and they don't have any access to prayer or the Lord because they've been going to church, but they haven't really been thinking much about anything else. It's not like they're bad people. It's just they're not praying people. So having the rule and like, again, something doable with the priest's kind of counsel, you wind up on a long trajectory towards the Lord rather than just bumping into problems and calling out for him. You wind up on this like long trajectory towards the kingdom, and some longer than others, but trajectory towards the kingdom. And when it's time to pray, you know what you're doing. You know the Lord. There's an intimacy that's grown because you've been making this long discipline. What does it mean to have a spiritual father? I think this is one of the things that have really, really attracted me to Orthodoxy was the ethos. Like what's in the air in Orthodoxy is holiness and an encouragement to follow the Lord towards sanctity. So we would say that everyone is called to be a saint. And so we don't have just like, a handful of saints who sort of figured something out and worked some miracles or something, but everyone's called to that. In Orthodoxy, the way we kind of walk that road is with a spiritual father who has been Oftentimes it's the parish priest. We don't need to find a guru, probably like way off somewhere else, and who we never actually talk to or see, but the parish priest, where we make a regular confession and we do our prayers, and they know us. They know everything about us. They know the inside and the outside. They know how we really are, and basically like know our thoughts. We reveal our thoughts to them, and they know us and they love us. Maybe not everybody's totally capable of this, but certainly most priests are, and this is what they do, is they become like a father. I refer to my spiritual father, I refer to myself as my spiritual father's son. Like, I'm his son, and I want to live like following his example, which leads us, we can talk about saints, but, and act like actual saints and why we'd even interact with them. But, to have someone who has heard your confession, who knows you and can guide you, can say like, you can call and say like, I need you to pray for me. And they really know you, like fathers know their sons, like mothers know their children, to have someone who really cares for you in the Lord. Like, the whole relationship's a spiritual relationship. So as I've gotten older and people younger come to church, it's easy for me to see them as my children. Like, I have children their age, some of them, like, it's easy. And it's that kind of relationship. It's like the parents only, not all of us had great parents who loved us, but mostly that was what it's supposed to be. They tried, probably most of them somehow. And, but the spiritual father, and again, like sometimes it can't be the parish priest for some reason, but the parish priest is more than adequate to pull this off. Because it's and we have like, obedience will come off wrong probably, but we live in obedience. So I would never, if my spiritual father gave me counsel, I would never just consider it super optional. He's not going to throw it around and like make me, you must do 1,000 push-ups a day or carry water up this hill every day and dump it. It would be for my own salvation. So it's like, you need to tell your wife what you just told me, or you need to forgive them from your heart and quit bringing it back up. I would go, yeah, okay. I'll do what you say. Read this book. Okay. My spiritual father, like he told me to read a novel last Lent, among other things, which I'll not share. But one of the things he wanted me to do was read this novel. I ordered it that day. Like, yes, I will read. You want me to read the novel? I will. I didn't go read a novel. It's an Orthodox story, but if he'd have told me to read whatever, I'd have said, yeah, if you think that's what I need to do, I will do it. So even just that there's that, it's basically like that kind of counsel is available to someone. So I would tell people, like, if you're not in a spiritual father-child relationship with your priest, go make it happen. Like, go, Father, give me a word. Tell me what I need to do. Like, help me. Like, here's what I'm dealing with. Pray for me, and to just adopt the parish priest. People do visit monasteries and they do make those connections there, and that's fine too. These things, that happens too. But in general, like, it needs to be someone available to you. Like, I know other priests too that don't do this. We don't take, like, if I go give a talk somewhere and everybody comes up like, you need to be my spiritual father. I'm like, no, I don't live in Minnesota. Like, that, you've got a parish priest. He's more than adequate. Like, we shouldn't think so highly of ourselves that we couldn't be guided by just a regular priest, who loves the Lord. And, but there may be specific situations that are different, but in general, like, priests are striving, they're standing at the altar in innocence, they're trying, and to join ourselves to just get some, like, a push in the right direction even. So I have so many brother priests that are so good at being spiritual fathers, and their people really grow with them. That we just watch it. There's really grace that happens in that relationship. It's sweet.